Now, Sports Talk with Broads. Here's Hunter Brody.
Let's go, come on now, let's go! What a big win. What a huge win for this 76ers squad. Without Joel Embiid on the floor? Now, before the game, the team hears the news and the fan base hears the news that Joel Embiid is going to have to miss some time with a finger surgery. We don't know how long it's going to be. He will be reevaluated within weeks, so we're going to have to wait and see. But for the team to hear that news, it's got to be a little bit crushing inside. Now, it didn't change the preparation for this game against the Celtics because everyone knew he wasn't going to be available in this one. But it doesn't mean it didn't hurt when you hear that one of your best players on the team is going to miss a decent amount of time based off of needing surgery, even though it's just a finger. Still, he's missing some significant amount of time, so hearing that has to be a low blow, and the team responded by playing really well. Now, I just want to throw this out there for all the Brett Brown haters out there, because the Brett Brown haters believe that Brad Stevens is a really good coach, and it is the truth. Brad Stevens is a really good coach. So what does that say when the Sixers are now 3-0 against him? And oh, by the way, this one was without Joel Embiid, which is a huge difference. I mean, Joel Embiid on and off the floor for 48 minutes changes the game completely. So what does that say about Brett Brown that he is now 3-0 against Brad Stevens this season? Does it mean that maybe he's growing as a coach? Does it mean maybe he's learning how to beat the Ben Simmons wall that Brad Stevens always seems to throw out there? Yeah, I think so. So how about Brett Brown getting a little bit of credit for dialing up a game plan with Ben Simmons and Josh Richardson and Al Horford when he loses such a big piece in Joel Embiid? How about it? And by the way, this whole nonsense about Ben Simmons being traded for D'Lo and the potential trade, get that garbage out of my face. Just get it out of my face. I'm not trading Ben Simmons. There's like 3 players in this league that I would trade Ben Simmons for. 4 players, maybe 5. I'm not trading Ben Simmons. Don't give me D'Lo and a draft pick. That's garbage. Get the trash out of my eyes. He can be frustrating at times, but just stop it. People are so hooked on just points and things of that nature. He brings so much to the table. He was playing the 5 at one point. He was defending the 5 at one point. You can't have D'Lo guarding the 5. Okay, we don't need to do this right now. Let's break down this basketball game. But before we do, we need to hear a word from my sponsor, SeatGeek. Are you looking for free money when buying tickets? I can give that to you. If you use the promo code BROADS at SeatGeek's checkout page, you get $20 off of your total purchase. That is free parking, my friends. That is free beer. It's free food. It's a no-brainer to use the promo code BROADS today. Now, we need to start with, we'll start with Al Horford. Because Al Horford was tremendous in this one. He provided 17 points, 8 rebounds, 6 assists, a couple blocks, a steal. He was magnificent. At some points, Jayson Tatum on him, and I'm just laughing because they had so many times in practice and throughout training camps where they would be one-on-one with each other, and Uncle Al would be the old guy trying to show the young kid, and Jayson Tatum had to do things. Well, Al Horford had the answers for majority of the night on everyone. I thought Al Horford was really electric, and he's starting to get out of that funk. Now, this is 2 games in a row where we're starting to see more of the Al Horford that we need to see. I understand the Boston Celtics were on a back-to-back, but I don't care. They still need to come into this building and try and perform, and the Sixers were able to shut them down when it came to the fourth quarter. Early in this game, the Celtics were able to score. They got a ton of three-point looks that they were knocking down. But as the game went on and as it progressed, you saw the defense by the Sixers, which really caused the Celtics to crumble. I mean, when you look at the fourth quarter alone, the Celtics scored 18 points. The Sixers scored 32, so that's a big-time difference. And normally, we're used to seeing the Sixers flip-flop, but they were able to make it happen. And when you look at how they did it, defensively, right, Ben Ben Simmons with the steal that led to a Josh Richardson pair of free throws, and Josh Richardson being the ball handler, having Ben Simmons be the screener. Ben Simmons was in the post late in this game with 3:08 left, and he was knocking down hook shots. Now, there was a moment late, not that I want to get too crazy and far ahead deep into the game, but, that's when crunch time happens. That's when it's the most important. There was a moment where I got a little nervous. It was 5:36 to go. It was 94-87 Sixers. Furkan Korkmaz had an alley-oop pass to Ben Simmons. It was somewhat of a pass behind him. Maybe he could have went for the bounce pass, but the Sixers did not execute. The ball went the other way. A couple points in transition for the Celtics. They end up making it a 94-92 game. And if Ben Simmons had that dunk, if he was able to put the alley-oop in, that place would have been insane. It would have been nuts. The Wells Fargo Center would have absolutely blown up. So it was such a huge, crucial point. It was such a momentum swing. It was such a big point swing, and I got super nervous in that moment. But the Sixers were able to come up with what they needed to down the stretch, and it was a beautiful watch. Once again, just like the last game against OKC, when things got really tight and it was the last few minutes, the Sixers made plays. It wasn't bad turnovers and the Sixers just holding on. No. The Sixers made the plays. They executed, and their defense created those chances for the 76ers. So down the stretch, it was really solid out of the Sixers. A lot of guys played a factor. I talked about Al Horford. Let's go to Ben Simmons. 19 points, 9 rebounds, only 3 assists. But as I stated, Josh Richardson had the ball in his hands. It looks as if when it's downhill, when it's full speed, Ben Simmons can have the ball, and he can really put his head down and do what he needs to do and do what he does best. If it's not available, you slow things down, you give it to Josh Richardson. You're seeing Brett Brown dial up a ton of different looks right now and different plays, and it's working. It's being effective. So you do need to tip your cap to what Brett Brown has done over the last few games and trying out all different things. So Ben Simmons, awesome. Straight up awesome on both sides of the floor. And he always struggles against Boston. I mentioned how Brad Stevens always has that wall that really gets Ben all clustered in his head. He puts the big man in front of Ben Simmons, in front of that rim, and it scares Ben. Well, with this new role of being the screener and rolling to the basket, it was a problem for the Celtics, and Ben dropped 19 points. It was phenomenal to see him play. Josh Richardson, are you serious? With 29 points and 7 assists? Not only was he scoring the basketball, but he was able to find players as well. Josh Richardson was a stud in this game. And let's go to the bench. Norvell Pelle, wow. I mean, the guy was an energy boost with challenging shots, with being aggressive, with just being a guy on offense who's rolling to the basket as well and being able to put the ball through the hoop. He was a big-time difference maker when it came to energy, and the crowd was building off of it. It's not just the players feeding off that energy. The crowd was too, and that is what also feeds the entire team as a whole. So I got to tip my cap to Norvell Pelle. Furkan Korkmaz, can't stand the guy. In the fourth quarter, he makes a couple shots. He made a big-time 3 in this game when it mattered, when it was important. So, hey, Furky, not the biggest fan in the world. His defense is abysmal, but he made a big-time shot. And I mentioned his alley-oop pass that was a little behind Ben Simmons, and I would have liked to seen the bounce pass. Well, on the other side, he ended up fouling, I believe it was Kemba Walker, and that turned it into a 3-point play. So it was like Furkan hit a big 3. It was great, and then he made a pass that, I'm not going to say it was an easy pass to make. It definitely wasn't easy, but I think he needed to go a different direction with it. I'm not going to crush the guy, okay? It was a tough play to make, but I think the bounce pass would have been more efficient. But the foul on the backside, that's the problem with me with Furkan Korkmaz. It's that defense, but he did make big-time shots when needed. And keeping it with the bench, James Ennis had some important run, knocking down 3. It was as if the entire team had a role in this one. Tobias Harris, he didn't have the best shooting percentage night, but 16 points, 7 boards. Everyone had a role. Matisse Thybulle got back into the lineup. He wasn't able to do much on the stat sheet, but that's what kind of happens when you are out for a decent amount of time and you get thrown into the mix like that. He did not have his greatest performance, but he's another guy where him being out there, the team just feeds off of it. Norvell Pelle, the team just feeds off of that because I guess they look at those players like, all right, they're our little brothers. There are little young ones on the team, and when the team watches those players just run up and down the floor, whether they're dropping 28 points or 4 points, it's just the fact that the team gets excited and juiced up for them just to be out there because they understand where they are in their careers, and they understand that they're so young, and they're happy for them, and it boosts the entire morale of the squad. When you look at Jayson Tatum, he shot 4 of 13. Jaylen Brown, 2 of 12. The defense stepped up. In that fourth quarter, it was a different type of beast. The length was a problem. And keep in mind, this is without Joel Embiid. The rim protector, the legit rim protector. This team's even longer when he is playing at the 5 in games. It's incredible to think about. That's why I always state when this team is willing, when this team is on and dialed in, they're a scary bunch no matter what their record is. So when they get to the playoffs, that's why I know they are going to be dialed in because it is the playoffs and you never know because I know this team is scary as hell when they have the right mindset and when they are focused on playing defense to an elite degree. It just comes down to will their offense produce as well. And speaking of their offense, they shot 40% from 3 and they scored 50 points in the paint, 50 of their 109. They held the Boston Celtics to under 100 points. And when they hold teams to under 100 points, they win basketball games. Now, Marcus Smart was knocking down an obnoxious amount of three-pointers. He finished with 5 total threes and 24 points. I don't know what happens when he comes to Philadelphia, but he ends up being a legit weapon every single time, it seems. Kemba dropped his points with 26. But all around, the Sixers did a fantastic job at making it a living hell after the first half or so, after the first quarter specifically. They dropped a ton of points in the first quarter, and the Celtics had a run. But right before half, the Sixers gained momentum. They scored a really nice amount of points late, right before half ended, though. The Celtics got 2 buckets, and it kind of killed the energy and the vibe based off of that nice run before the half ended. But once it was the third and fourth quarter, it was a totally different ball game. Players made shots, players executed, players defended at a high rate, and it was a beautiful watch. Mike Scott ended up starting. I was curious, how will Brett Brown elect to do this? Would he have Kyle O'Quinn start and keep Al Horford at the 4? Would Trey Burke start? And maybe Matisse Thybulle start and slide Tobias Harris to the 4 and slide Al Horford to the 5. But what Brett Brown did, I really liked. I liked throwing Mike Scott into the 4, although he has not been very good, to be honest with you. But I do like him going with Mike Scott because, one, it's probably better than a Matisse Thybulle or a Trey Burke right now, just based off of personnel and keeping things the way that he wants to in terms of, well, Trey Burke can keep his minutes, Matisse can get back into his role coming off the bench and just trying to keep the minutes as normalized as possible. So I understand the mindset he went with. But you saw Ben with the 5 position at times and being the backup center. He's being unique, he's being different, and it's totally working right now. I thought the Sixers did a great job in this basketball game. This is why we get frustrated, though, because they take games off and they disappoint and they don't show up. Like the way they played in the first quarter where the Celtics had all the momentum, knocked down all these shots. It looked like there was some miscommunication defensively for the Sixers, right? When the Sixers do that, it's irritating because you know that they have another level. You know that they can play the way that they did in the third and fourth quarter. But that's why I don't cry and freak out when they lose to the Hawks or they lose to the Orlando Magic, because when they are willing to do it, right or wrong, they pick their moments to do it, but when they are willing to do it, they can do it with the best. with the best. Now, the Celtics lost 3 in a row. They're going through a funk. All teams do it. All teams do it. All teams go through highs and lows. They go through peaks in a season, in an 82-game season. It's impossible not to. It happens all the time to every team. As I stated before, you guys just, I'm not saying or pointing anyone out individually, but I'm just saying when fans get so disappointed with the Sixers and freak out and go nuts when the Sixers lose 3 in a row, or if they lose 4 of 5, every team does it. People just don't focus on other teams because they don't care, because they're not as emotionally tied, and I get that. But it happens to everyone because it's human nature, because it's impossible to be historic every year. Sure, the Golden State Warriors lost 9 games in a season. We know what the Chicago Bulls did before. That's not normal. That's not normal at all. This is normal. Going through ups and downs in a season. This is normal. Right now, the Sixers are on a little bit of a push here after beating the OKC Thunder and after now beating the Boston Celtics, and they have a big one on Saturday night. They just need to continue the momentum. It seems now that they are winning games and they look good, that the energy's back in the locker room, right? You remember how bad it was after the 4-game losing streak. After the game, Josh Richardson's talking about accountability, and Al Horford's disappointed in his role, and Ben Simmons says we need to look in the mirror, and or Brett Brown, whoever stated the look in the mirror line. Right? What did I say? I said the cure of this all is just winning basketball games. When you start to win basketball games, all of that goes away. All of the bad vibes in the locker room goes away because everyone's happy, because you're winning games and you're doing what you're supposed to do. And if you're winning games, that means the players are probably performing better as well, right? So that means everyone's confidence is better. The morale is up. And that's what you're seeing right now. That's exactly what you're seeing right now. What has changed? What has changed other than just a little bit of swagger? That's all it is. And why do you think they're having a little bit of swagger? Because they're coming off a win, and then they're grabbing another win. It's momentum, and they need to continue riding it. Because right now they're in the 5th seed, but the 5th seed, I mentioned this so many times, from 2 to 6, there's barely any separation. You can blink your eye, and before you know it, the Sixers are in the 2, they're in the 3, they're in the 4. It's just, there's so much basketball left. It'll drive you crazy to dwell on the fact that they're in the 5th seed right now. And to be honest with you, I'm not even worried about where they fall exactly, because as I stated, when they want to play, and I know they will want to play in the postseason, it's a totally different ballgame. And the half-court set has been a problem with the Sixers based off Ben Simmons' inability to shoot. But I think you're starting to see that there is a way to work with Ben Simmons in the half-court. I see Brett Brown working on things, and working on things now that he knows will play a factor in the playoffs. You're seeing it with the way Josh Richardson's handling the ball, with Ben Simmons setting the screen, with Ben Simmons rolling to the basket. You're seeing them trying to implement Ben Simmons in other ways. And to be fair, when you realize that Ben Simmons just ain't going to shoot it, what do you have to do? You need to adjust as a coach and put him in different situations that will help him succeed. Well, Brett Brown is saying, hey, if you got the lane, if you got the fast break, take the fast break. If not, we're going to do this. And it's putting Ben Simmons in a different situation where he is way more comfortable and he's being effective. It's totally working, and teams are having a tough time figuring it out right now, and Ben is hopping on that opportunity and rolling with it and scoring points and getting close to the basket and finishing at the rim. And if not, he's dishing the ball out. Or if not, he's grabbing rebounds and finding ways to make it work. It's working. It's working, and I'm loving it, and I want them to continue to build off that, because I also think it's helping Josh Richardson. It's not just helping Ben Simmons, it's helping Josh Richardson as well, because he feels comfortable with the ball in his hands. He's able to come off of that pick and either shoot the three-pointer or pass to Ben Simmons. He's not just scoring points, he's finding ways to move the ball as well and recording a ton of assists. So it's not just helping Ben Simmons. And realistically, it's not just helping those two either. It's helping the entire team. This whole new look with Ben is helping the entire team. He does his best work with the ball in his hands, and that's the problem. Taking him away completely of the ball isn't going to work. You can't just always take it out of his hands, because his best shoot, like his strongest shoot, is having the ball in his hands and facilitating and making plays. This just gives him a different outlet to do that. If he's rolling to the basket and gets a bounce pass, he can still facilitate as he's going to the rim. It just puts the defender in a different spot where he needs to make a different decision. And it's happening so fast, and Ben is so big, it's just a different look. And he's so much faster, right? At 6'10", he's not your standard center. So if there's a center there who's 7 foot and you have a very versatile 6'10" guard who's going up there, it's a totally different way to defend it than if it's Joel Embiid going to the basket or an Al Horford going to the basket. So there's a lot to take away from the way that Brett Brown is dialing up these plays and working with this team offensively. I think he's actually done a really solid job, and it has been successful over the last few games, and I can't wait to see him build off of that. I did get a little nervous there late because typical Sixers would lose that game. After Ben Simmons does not make the alley-oop, typical Sixers would lose this basketball game. They would allow the Celtics to come down the stretch and make points and down the wire, find ways to score and creep up on the Sixers, and then a bad turnover would play into effect, and somehow it would be a miserable loss like what happened with the Miami Heat when the Sixers lost in Miami. But now chalk it up to back-to-back games now where when the Sixers had the lead and it was deep into the fourth quarter, it was simple. It was simple. Finish the game out. Finish the game out. And we're not used to seeing that. So there you have it. Nice. Nice. I'm pumped up about it. It was a good win. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hit that thumbs up button, subscribe, and I will see you next time.